Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. I wanted to do a quick video because I keep getting asked this question and I can understand where the people are coming from when they ask this question. I need another security key for my front door. How much does it cost? And can I order one? And I say no, you have to go back through the strata, you have to go back through the registered person who's put that system on there to order a new key. I can't sell it directly. And they say, well, how much does it cost? And I say, well, restricted keys vary in price from anywhere from $15 up to $30, $40, depending on what type of key it is. Now, that's the money the locksmith makes for the particular product that we sell. We're not making a lot of money. On these type of keys here, some of which, even inline profiles, like these type of keys that are all big and shiny with numbers on the back and any, the business name and things like this, we might only be making $10 per key. And the keys are actually quite expensive. We got to be registered. There's a whole heap of paperwork and all the rest that goes through with it to become a dealer for a particular profile of key, of a restricted key. So we make our particular, $10, $15 key if we're lucky off each one. Some of which we invest a lot of money on to actually do. Just like this one here, a fancy key, a multi-lock key. We have to invest a lot of money to do it, to become a dealer for that particular type of profile, to be able to sell it. Now, when the customer comes to us and they say, well, how much is a key worth? And I say, well, key ranges from this for security type of keys. And they get their nose out of joint and they say, well, my real estate's trying to charge me, and my strata's trying to charge me, and they think they're getting ripped off or dudded, or somebody's trying to make a profit off them. And what they're not really understanding is what I'm trying to explain on this video here. When you get a restricted key system installed, it costs money. Each cylinder, each side, costs money to actually do. And there are benefits to a restricted key system. You have key control. Now, key control allows you to hand out a key, and if you get that key back, you know that no more further keys have been produced. They also allow you to have security in the lock cylinder. What that means is that if you live in a block of units and you've got a door that leads, fire door leads down to the basement, you're not going to get some Joe Blow with a pick gun off eBay for $10 who's going to be able to quickly pick through that lock and get in and then break into your car. No, the restricted key cylinders offer better key control because of the shape of the key, and they also offer some better form of pick resistance than your standard locks that most buildings come out with. So when the committee sit down and they say we're going to move to a restricted key system so that we can keep track of the keys, this actually costs the building quite a bit of money. They invest a couple of $1,000s, and they invest for the key cuts and all the rest. Everybody gets a key. Now, when somebody comes along and says, I want another key, sometimes the strata and the building committee, they decide to say, okay, well, we've invested $2,000, let's try and see if we can recoup this. And if they can recoup it over the period of the lifetime of that system, which might be 5 years on a high use, 10 years, sometimes 20 years, if they can recoup that, then that makes it worth it for them. It's not profitable for them. They're just trying to recover their money to be able to provide the security for the people who live in the building premises. So I would prefer to move into a building block which had security on all their exits and entries to stop unwanted people coming through, so that you can reap the benefit of not having burglars and not also having old residents come through or old tenants come through. I mean, you got to remember too, if you're there and you're paying strata fees and somebody comes into your building who used to live there 5 years ago and they're using your pool and your sauna every day, and you're paying for this and using your lifts and storing stuff in corners or rooms or whatever, or using your parking spot or parking spots that are in there for the building, you've got to remember that you're trying to keep these type of people out, because what you're actually paying for is some sort of security, and you actually want to use these facilities. Now, your facilities, when you use a security key, you actually tighten the loop, so to speak, on the actual security of the building. So this is why people do it. They also don't want people where there's 10 people living in a one-bedroom unit. So they use security devices like security keys or security tokens to limit the amount of people that can actually go in and out. Now, if a building works out that in the last 3 months they've lost 10 of these keys, it might be time to actually do a change combination and change all these locks across the building as well, which is more money. And what this does is this brings their security back to a usable format. If you've lost 100 keys on a building and you haven't changed the locks, there's a chance you're going to be getting old tenants, all sorts of people who have keys that shouldn't have keys, and that's when cars get broken into. That's when people start using your bin, they start using your gym, they start using your pool on a hot days, and they're things you don't want. They're reserved for people who are paying the strata fees, who live in the building, and that's where the strata kind of steps in and says, okay, let's install this security key system. Now when they do that, they bring on a few not problems, but a few more issues for themselves. They might need to keep a log record of who these keys go out to. They might even wish to have a deposit on the actual key, so when they give out a key, they charge you 150, you give it back, you get back 100. Something along those lines. Covers a little bit of the cost, and it also encourages you to return the key that you started with. The key's fairly worn, they're probably not going to reuse it, but the thing is that if you give back that key, they can keep that tight net on the security and keep your security in order. It takes time for people to log these keys, record these keys, meet with you, hand the key over, order the keys, and that is why sometimes there is a small premium on the key. If you're saying $150 per key, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not when you add up all the things that are involved in keeping that building secure. And when you are in a building and that building is secure, it's better for you. You're not going to get people flying through who are just in there to use the pool. I'll loan you the key off a friend of a friend of a friend. Things along these lines. Imagine going down to your swimming pool. You're paying a premium to rent the apartment, let's say, and now all of a sudden a group of 20 teenagers start jumping in the pool while you're trying to have a swim, and you're paying $400 or $500 per week to use that pool with the other 30 residents. You don't really want a bunch of people doing this. Same with your rubbish. You don't want people dumping rubbish who do commercial cleaning coming through, and I've got an old key when I used to rent there. No, you don't want that, because then you won't have room for your rubbish or your car or your parking. Somebody needs to manage it, and that's where strata people, real estate agents, people along those lines, generally strata people, they sometimes do charge a premium. And it's not so much just to say, look, I'm going to make a quick 50 off you and we times that by the amount of units. It's not really that. It's to cover the cost, it's to cover the time, it's to cover the investment on the security keys. This is why there is a premium, and very often it's actually a deposit. They'll sell you a key for $60, which covers them for the payment of the key, but when you return it, they give you back that deposit so that they can keep that security, and they can keep it monitored about how many keys are actually been issued. And when they hand one out and they get one back, they know no more keys have been cut. So they know how many keys are currently in use, and that is what you're actually paying for when you start paying premiums and deposits and inflated prices for a particular product. What the locksmiths make off it is very small. We provide the product, we make $10, $15 a key, and that's it. It's not us making the profit off the keys, and often it's not even profit that is making the inflated price. And it's just worthwhile taking that all into account before you start screaming at your strata manager, oh, you trying to rip me off. No, nobody's ripping anybody off. If you're charging $250 for a token, then somebody's making a profit. If they're charging $150 or a deposit and it's a return basis, they're not really making profit. I have seen instances where people do intercoms and they charge $250 if you want another token. Sometimes that is basically a friend of a builder who, yes, is riding the gravy train and exploiting you on that particular instance. Okay, but in keys and things along those lines, it's not the locksmiths making the money, and there are reasons for that premium being actually charged. And if you think about it, these locks will all need servicing. Some on a high use door, you can be replacing that lock every 6 months, 1 year. On a real high use door where the lock is just absolutely 200 to 300 people going through that single lock, when they really should have access control. Well, it's swipe or touchless type of entry, but they don't. They go for just a standard mechanical type of system to keep costs down so they can have that security and save on money. Then yeah, the cylinders can wear out, and every 6 months a locksmith has to go out there and they have to charge, so they might get a $200-300 bill. And if you look at it this way, if they give everybody, let's say there's 10 units, they give everybody 2 keys, how long is it going to be before somebody needs another key? You're going to see probably 1 or 2 or 3 keys. So who's paying the repairs on the bill? And the thing is, when restricted key systems are added to a building, they're never introduced from the start. Some are, but very rarely. A lot of the time it's an aftermarket thing, and a lot of the time it's introduced by a strata who's saying, well, come on, let's tighten our security here a bit, and it's for the benefit of the residents and the owners that they do that. So that is why restricted key systems are introduced into unit complexes. It helps in quite a number of different ways. But to say that somebody's trying to cheat me out of my money and trying to overcharge me because of these sort of security keys like this that can't be copied at your local dealer is not necessarily the case. So that's my point today. That's my video today. If you've got more information about this topic and you would like to leave more reasons why security keys are a benefit to the building, or reasons why strata managers or real estates might charge a fee, please leave it down below. If you've had other experiences where strata managers or real estates are seeming to charge a phenomenal amount, leave it down below. It's always good to see. And with the locksmiths that watch this channel thing, you're going to get a pretty honest response. But at the end of the day, don't get angry at a locksmith for not being able to cut it, because we have an agreement with the person who paid for these locks to be installed, and only that person can get keys cut. So whether or not that suits you or not is not between us and you, it's between us, and it's between you and the client. And we can't give out information on clients and things along those lines. It is a do not copy key.